يلا. بسم الله. بسم الله، الحمد لله، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Before we get started with tonight's marathon, the book that we're going to introduce to you today, or tonight, is called An-Nubadhu fi Adabi Talab al-Ilm. An-Nubadh fi Adabi Talab al-Ilm. Ta'lif Hamad ibn Ibrahim al-Uthman. It's a book called An-Nubadh. An-Nubadh fi Adabi Talab al-Ilm. And the author of the book, his name is Hamad ibn Ibrahim al-Uthman. This book here, as you can see from the cover, it's quite vintage. It's old. It's how the book covers were made back in the day, before the virtual era with graphics and things like this. It was printed in 1995. So that's a good 20 years ago. Hamad ibn Ibrahim al-Uthman is from the scholars of Kuwait. He's well known and well respected. And this is one of the best books of the modern age. One of the most thorough and one of the most solid and one of the most exciting books on adab of talab al-ilm of the common or the current era or the modern age. Obviously 20-something years ago is considered old now. But in comparison to the Khatib, in comparison to Ibn Jama'ah, in comparison to Ibn Abdul Barr, in comparison to Al-Dhahabi, etc. As we've explained with regards to the lineage of the books of the etiquettes of seeking knowledge. So this here is one of the best books, if not the best book. It's hard to say the best book, definitely one of the best books that has been written in the 20th and 21st century regarding seeking knowledge. So if you get a chance, grab the book. I don't know if you'll get this copy. They reprinted the book, obviously, but this is old. This is a vintage copy. Inshallah ta'ala, this is an excellent book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and Allah knows best. Talib, let's get started with the questions. Fadl Talib.
What's the ruling on a woman freezing her eggs?
Question said, what is the ruling on a woman freezing her eggs? The answer to the question is going to be based off of another issue with regards to family planning, with regards to artificial insemination, with regards to donating one's sperm, etc. So the answer to this is nothing more than a byproduct than the answer to those issues. The ulama of Islam of today, they have explained that there are details on these issues with regards to a man or the egg and the man's semen, donating and things like this. Certain things are permissible and others aren't. For a husband and wife to have some type of surgical procedure or some type of preservation or storage of their eggs or her eggs, his sperm, etc., that's one thing. They're married. The lineage is not being mixed up, and there's actual legal marriage between the two. As far as a man donating his sperm to another woman for whom she is not married and she has a husband or a boyfriend, etc., then that's clearly problematic because of the mixing up of genealogy, which is one of the reasons behind the prohibition of zina. One of the wisdoms why zina is haram is because people's genes, people's lineage becomes mixed up. Father doesn't know son, son doesn't know father, etc. So, to keep things brief, if there's a woman who has some advice through a trusted medical expert with regards to preserving her eggs, and it's only for her husband, and and he's only going to have access to it, etc., with regards to making the baby, quote unquote, in layman terms, then that's one scenario. As far as if it's going to be at the access of men that are not her husband, doctors that are not trustworthy, that are not Muslim, people that are not experts on the topic, then obviously that is going to be a cause behind irresponsibility. And if there's irresponsibility with regards to eggs and sperm, then it's going to be haram because of what I just explained. And Allah knows best. That's in brief.
This was AI from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. What is your advice for someone who had a history of being involved with the immoral and evil from a young, and they've been struggling with addiction? How can they approach marriage? Even though they've stopped the sin, it seems to be in the back of their mind.
Question comes from the UK with regards to someone who was raised upon sin and immoral acts that are impermissible and wrong. Acts that are wrong. Now, it works when we throw it, huh? Allahumma musta'an. You saw it yourself. Yeah. Has a mind of his own. Allah knows best. At the end of the day, Jazakallah khair Mukhtar. Barakallah fiqh. With regards to someone who has a past that's troubled and challenged, and now they want to get married, they want to do the right thing, they want to be righteous, they want to get married, and it's in the back of their mind, it's a quote unquote black shadow, a cloud covering them, following them, etc. What advice would you give to them? First and foremost is Allah Azza wa Jal, He is Al-Alim Al-Hakim. He knows everything. And He's all wise, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He decrees things for certain reasons. He knows the reasons of the wisdoms. He knows the outcome and the destination, that which we don't know. Okay, so Allah may decree something and you may question it or doubt it or be confused or it may haunt you. But Allah Azza wa Jalla, He decreed that thing for a great, tremendous wisdom. A great and a tremendous wisdom. So the ulama of Islam, they speak on the issue of using the qadr to blame or blaming the qadr, يعني in sahha ta'bir, using the qadr as an excuse or reason behind their acts of disobedience. Behind their acts of disobedience. I did this sin, I made this crime because Allah decreed it upon me. So they discuss this issue in detail. And we know for a person to make an excuse to disobey Allah because of the qadr, absolutely that's wrong. And that's the act of the mushrikeen, as they said in the Quran. If it was Allah's will, we wouldn't have any shirk or our fathers. So that's wrong. However, the ulama of Islam, some of them they say, as far as the past tense, when a person has made tawbah, they have repented, they have straightened out their act. They're flying straight, they're flying right. And it was years ago. And a person says, Allah decreed that upon me. Allah in His wisdom, He put that sin, He made that decree upon me, but that's in the past. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm through with that, and I'm better now. And then I can reflect on it, and I can say, Alhamdulillah, I used to do this, but no longer. I used to be addicted to this, but I got off the addiction. And he can tell people and encourage people and inspire people. Then some of the ulama, such as Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, they say that that's permissible. That's permissible. Or the musibah, okay? An affliction, a misfortune, a catastrophe that was because of sins. It was the qadr. As Musa alayhi salam debated with Adam. And Adam won that debate because of that. So therefore, know for sure that Allah decrees things for an ultimate wisdom. قُلْ فَلِلَّهِ الْحُجَّةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. Say, O Muhammad, for Allah is al-hujjatul baligha, the most profound argument, the most profound proof and authority. And if Allah had willed, لَهَدَاكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ, He would have guided all of you. But that's not what reason. If those things are in the past, and you have made tawbah, and you've made a sincere return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not be grief-stricken, and do not be overtaken by the anxiety, or not the anxiety, the fear, or the worries of the past. It's done. It's over. Allah decreed it. What's important is what you're doing right now. What's important is what you plan to do in the future. What's important is that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He saved you from that. And no one can appreciate light as he's never experienced darkness. You can't truly appreciate light until you've experienced darkness. And that's why the Sahaba were the best Muslims, is because they had Jahiliyyah. They were in Jahiliyyah. They experienced things. They did things that were wrong. All right. Now, there's a narration, and Allah knows best how authentic it is. Some of the ulama, they mention this narration that says that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, إنما تنقض عروة الإسلام عربة 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 إذا نشأ في الإسلام من لم يعرف الجاهلية. The narration says that the things which would destroy Islam and tear apart the threads of Islam is that when someone grows up who never has experienced Jahiliyyah. Someone is growing up, a young Muslim youth that's never ever experienced any type of evil or negativity. Meaning he won't necessarily appreciate everything. He won't know the value of guidance because that's the only thing that he's used to and accustomed to. So there's wisdom in this. What's important is right now, what are you doing? Are you smoking and drinking now? The years that passed, the years that were wasted, I was addicted, people saw me, I was humiliated, but what are you doing right now? Because indeed, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there were brothers that were praying. There were brothers that were making Hajj and Umrah. There were brothers that were teaching classes. There were scholars. And what are they doing right now? Some of them left Islam. Some of them don't pray. Some of them shave their beards. Some of them take off their hijab. So be mindful of that. It's not about the beginning of the race or the middle of the race. It's about the end of the race. That's the only thing that matters. Is what are you doing right now and what are you planning on doing tomorrow? So just be mindful of this and watch out for the games that the shaitan is trying to play with your mind and getting you to cause fall into depression and mental illness and sickness, anxiety and grief. It's over. It's done. It's what Allah had wanted it to be. And we know that when a servant wishes to go back to Allah, make repentance, there are several obstacles and barricades that the shaitan lays down. Several. From those obstacles and barricades are the people. Oh, you trying to be righteous now? You got a beard now? You wearing a niqab now? But just yesterday you were a prostitute. Now you want to be righteous and holy? Right? You want to study now? Just yesterday you were drinking and smoking and doing this. And you were tatted up. Now you want to be in a masjid. Another barricade or obstacle that the shaitan places is the concept of I know I'm going to go back into the sin. I know I'm not strong enough yet. What's the point of making tawbah? What's the point of me burning it and getting rid of it? What's the point of me canceling my subscription? What's the point of me getting rid of it and flushing it down the toilet? What's the purpose? I know I'm going to go back to it, so I might as well keep it. That's a barricade of shaitan. And the third barricade is the person says, how is it going to be like not doing this? Oftentimes people smoke drugs or they drink or they do these haram things, not because they love it and it feels good, but because of the pain of doing without it and because of the mental damage that has been done. How would it feel for me not to be a drug addict? It doesn't even sound right. A day goes by in which I'm not smoking drugs. This is everything that I did for the last 30 years. But before you were smoking drugs, did you not eat, drink, sleep? Did you not live a normal life? Of course you did. So the shaitan, he plays games with you. He tricks you. Everyone understand this? So you have to be mindful of these tricks and these traps of the shaitan. And oftentimes the shaitan, he uses your own self against you through anxiety, through fear, through evil companions, etc. None of that means anything to you except for what you're doing right now, al-istiqamah, right now. And the intention and the resolve to do it tomorrow. That's the only thing that matters. And in bidnillah, through time, all wounds and scars will heal. All wounds will heal, even if they leave scars, but they'll heal, inshallah ta'ala. The thoughts will go away, the depression will go away, the anxiety will go away if you fight yourself. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ إِن تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهَ يَنْصُرْكُمْ وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُمْ. Allah tells us to fight in His cause, and if we do, He will make our feet firm. Allah tells us to struggle, and He will support us. Naam? The Prophet ﷺ explains to us in the Hadith al-Qudsi that Allah says, when a slave comes to me walking, أَتَيْتُهُ هَرْوَلَةً, I will come to him running. So put forth an effort, struggle. You may have to suffer a little bit, but know for sure it will get better and it will get easier. And do not dwell on the past, and do not get caught up in the entrapments of the shaitan. And Allah knows best.
This was AP from Melbourne, Australia. Is it allowed to have a mixed meeting for a youth group? Their ages are 18 to 25, and they discuss matters pertaining to what we can do for the community, organizing mashayikh, etc.
Question comes from Melbourne, Australia. Is it permissible to have a youth meeting with youth to discuss the affairs of the community, the issues of the community, the plans of the community, etc.? The question, the answer has nothing to do with the specifics mentioned in the question. Free mixing is either totally haram, totally permissible, or sometimes haram and sometimes permissible. Whatever the reason is. Whatever the reason is. So for people to, a non-mahram man to touch a non-mahram woman, to look at this woman lustfully, or for her to look at him lustfully, to lust over someone's voice, lust over someone's eyes through the niqab, whatever the case may be, to laugh, to joke, to, everyone sit around with the opposite sex, that's haram, without a question, based off of the proofs and the evidences of the Quran and the Sunnah. And as far as the other view or the other understanding that it's absolutely haram to have any contact between the two sexes, there's no time which men or women are in one place that aren't married, that aren't mahrams for each other, that's also incorrect, based off of the proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah, in which the different genders and sexes interacted during the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before the rules of hijab were sent down and after the rules of the hijab were sent down. So obviously that leads us to a middle course, a middle path, as we have explained to many questions before. What do you mean by free mixing? The brothers are in the front, the sisters are in the back. Is that what you mean? Or you mean brother, sister, sister, brother, brother, sister here? What do you mean? Families are sitting at these tables, single people are sitting over there. Brothers on the right side, sisters on the left side. A curtain, proper hijab, improper hijab, laughing, joking, loose talk. What do you mean by free mixing? It depends on what you mean. Free mixing, linguistically, is in the masjid. The men were here and the women were there. That's free mixing. That's obviously not haram. We're having a walima, everyone's mixed up together. Or a classroom, what do you mean by free mixing? So it depends on how the mixing is done, how the people are dressed, and it depends on the adab and the etiquettes of the people as well. Everyone understand this? One may say, an alim may look at a congregation and say, this is haram. And an alim, he may look at another congregation and say, this is halal, based off of what they're doing and how they're dressed and what type of people they are. So there is a detail. What's important is if there's a masjid and there are brothers on the board of the masjid or the administration of the masjid or community volunteers and members, and there are sisters as well. Sisters, their input is just as good as the input of men, if not better. Sometimes sisters, they do the best job in organizing and arranging and planning, better than men. This is a known fact. And obviously, when the people can work together and cooperate together, then that's the best thing to do. As Allah says in the Quran, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Allah says the believers, men and women, are awliya of each other. Men and women, Allah says. So they cooperate and they help each other out for the benefit of the community. If it's done in a respectable way and it's managed properly to the best of your ability, then inshallah ta'ala, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As far as if it isn't done in the best way and it isn't managed and there's looseness, then that's a different story. And obviously many issues pertaining to al-ikhtilat are based off of ijtihad. Not all issues, some issues are clear, as we said, clearly haram. And some issues are clearly halal. And there are issues sometime in the middle, in which one scholar, one madhab may say, that's ikhtilat mamnu'. And another may say, no, the sisters are there, the brothers are there, la bas. We can't have two rooms, we can't have two classrooms, so on and so forth, huh? Allah knows best.
Initials J.A. from Philadelphia. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. If a person in the masjid is praying sunnah prayer and the Akama is called for salat, should he finish praying the sunnah prayer or leave the prayer and join the jama'ah?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question comes from Philly, PA. If the Akama is made, then the best thing to do is to follow the hadith. إذا أقيمت الصلاة فلا صلاة إلا المكتوبة. The hadith of Abi Hurairah and Sahih Muslim. When the Akama is established, there's no prayer except for the mandatory prayer. So that's the best thing to do. Many of the ulama, they say it's permissible to finish your prayer with conditions. And that condition being that is less than one raka'ah remaining. Less than a raka'ah remaining. If you're on the second raka'ah and it's less than a complete raka'ah, then they say linguistically and legislatively, or not even linguistically, but legislatively, it's not actually prayer. There is no one prayer that's aqal min raka'ah. Witr is one what? Raka'ah. Everybody with me? Witr is what? One complete raka'ah. So they say if it's less than a raka'ah remaining, then it's not actually what? Salah. Okay? That's an interpretation mentioned by some of the people of knowledge. The safest thing to do is to stick with the Zahir al-Hadith and to join the Jama'ah. And Allah knows best.
Abu Hassan, Cairo, Egypt. May Allah reward you, Sheikh. Can you give us an insight into the two schools, Ahl Hadith and Ahl Wa'i?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you in Egypt.
The friction between both camps.
I believe we answered this a few classes ago. I believe so in detail. We don't have time to repeat that again, even though it's an important question. Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he did a great service to al-Islam by merging the things which could be merged and which should have been merged. And Allah knows best.
And this was KA from Manchester, UK. I asked Allah to preserve you, Sheikh. Will you visit Manchester?
May Allah bless you and preserve you as well. As far as the trip coming up in the beginning of November, I'm unsure if there's enough time on the schedule. I'm unsure. However, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, on the next trip, hopefully, the coming trips, we will try to go to a new city, inshallah ta'ala. If Allah allows us to go again, if He allows us to go this time, if we go another time, then we'll try to make a different tour in a different city or a different town and spread the love. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We love all of the brothers and the sisters who support the cause in the lands of the UK, inshallah. And obviously, if we cannot make it to Manchester or Luton or this place or that place, please forgive us. Time is limited. It's the first trip. There are many responsibilities, and there are many small birdies in the nest, all demanding worms. Everyone understand this? All of them have their mouths open, demanding food, and it's difficult to be in every place, and every time. But being that time, if you can come to London or Birmingham, that's the best thing to do. And if not, in the future, we'll try to visit Manchester and make a Manchester tour, inshallah ta'ala.
And this was AI from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. Can you explain the hadith about reading Surah Al-Kahf every Friday?
Question comes from where? London, UK. The hadith about reading Surah Al-Kahf every Friday. As we said last night, ثَبِّتْ عَرْشَكْ ثُمَّ انْقُشْ. Solidify your throne, then decorate your throne. Sheikh Yahya al-Hajuri, he has a book called أحكام الجمعة وبدعها. He has a book on the regulations of Jumu'ah and its innovations. It's a book that I purchased some years ago in Yemen and also in Medina. And in that book, he has a very interesting chapter on reading Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays. And the Sheikh, his opinion is that the hadith regarding reading Surah Al-Kahf every Friday is weak, is inauthentic. Now, we've explained this before on Mufti Q&A. I've given you what I thought, my opinion, which is the same. I don't think it's authentic. But it's a very important point that he mentioned that I didn't see anyone else mention. Of the scholars who talk about it, I haven't seen anyone else mention this point that he mentioned. And he said that from the things that prove that the hadith is da'if and it's not authentic is that there are no narrations stating that the Salaf al-Salih did it. There aren't any athar that the Salaf would do it on Friday. He says, I read the Sunan al-Kubra, Bayhaqi, Tafsir ibn Jarir, alright, Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba, Musannaf Abdul Razak, Madan al-Athar, al-Munqufa. He says the places where the athar, the statements of the Sahaba and the Salaf are collected, he says you can't find any of them stating, Ata, Hassan Basri, Saeed Jubair, Fulan, this one, that one, read Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays. He says, so that proves what the hadith research also proves. It supports it. Is that it's weak and it's ghayr ma'ruf. It's unknown to the Salaf al-Salih. So the correct view, as we've explained before, as some researchers, as another researcher, Sheikh Abdullah al-Fawzan, he has a book on it as well, just on a hadith. And he concludes in his research paper, his book, is that the hadith la yasih marfu'an wala munkhufan. It's not authentic from the Prophet nor from the companion. So that's the correct view, is that it is not authentic. However, if you believe that it's authentic, or if you follow this alim or this scholar or Sheikh al-Albani or this one or that one, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You stick with what you know, stick with who you trust. But if you ask me, I can only tell you what I believe in my heart. Everyone understand this? And a person who reads Surah Al-Kahf every single Friday, they believe that it's authentic, inshallah, that's khair. I had a teacher in the Islamic University of Medina, Sheikh Abdul Qayyum al-Suhaybani, in the College of Hadith. He was going over the hadith about sitting in the masjid after Salat al-Fajr and making dhikr of Allah and leaving the masjid after the sun has risen, as it is a reward of Hajj and Umrah. Naam. And he said, he was coming down some of the students of knowledge. He was criticizing us. He was saying, some of you guys have no fiqh. He says, you go and you tell the general people that the hadith is da'if, it's weak. He said, it's not hikmah. For the general people to sit in the masjid after Fajr and remain in Allah's house, and them not knowing that it's weak, is best for them. Which makes sense to an extent. But at the same time, does that mean that we keep people upon weak and da'if stuff and have them performing spirituality upon something which is what? Inauthentic. That's the problem. That's the doorway to what? To bid'ah. Let the people be religious and spiritual, even if it's not authentic. I'm not criticizing my teacher. I'm trying to make a point here. I'm trying to make a what? A point here. So if someone reads Surah Al-Kahf based off of what they read, that's best for them. But if you wish to know the truth and the correct and strong view, then that's what it is, that the hadith is not what? Authentic. As far as those who hold the view that it is authentic and they wish to read it every Friday, then obviously the narrations of Surah Al-Kahf are known, the hadith in Sahih Muslim about the Dajjal, reading the first ayat of Surah Al-Kahf upon the Dajjal, okay, the creation of the heavens and the earth, the Tawheed, Hijrah, Naam, Musa and Khidr, Iblis and Adam, many important stories of Surah Al-Kahf, huh? Friday being the day of Qiyamah, etc. Naam? This is from the wisdoms of reading it based off of that hadith, and Allah knows best.
Another shout out from London. Initials AA. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you? The brothers here in the UK are very excited for your arrival. May Allah smile upon you and your students.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we are very excited as well. We look forward to coming and meeting you in person and learning and benefiting and learning from each other there, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you. Ameen to your du'as. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully we see you soon. May Allah keep you firm.
Initials SA from Ottawa, Canada. Is it better to refrain from a sin because of the fear of Allah or because you are shy of Allah?
Question comes from Ottawa. Is it better to refrain from a sin because of the fear of Allah or because one is shy from Allah? Both. There are different motives and different incentives for the servant and the slave. You may stay away from a sin because you fear Allah. You may stay away from a sin because you're shy from the people. You may stay away from a sin because you don't have the courage to do it. You may stay away from a sin because you know that it's going to end up badly. You may stay away from a sin because you want to have it in Jannah. You want to drink the alcohol in Jannah. There are different reasons. They're different what? They're different reasons. Sometimes they're combined and sometimes they're separated. What's important is whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. I don't want to make zina because I know people get HIV. And what if I have an illegitimate child? And what if my daughter grows up and someone makes zina with her? What if my son grows up and someone... So I'm not going to take advantage of somebody else's daughter or son. If that's your rationale and it works for you, alhamdulillah. Others, they may stay away from the zina because they love Allah so much. How can Allah love me when I make zina? Inna Allah yaghar. Allah has ghayrah, He has jealousy and envy. And Allah's ghayrah is when a slave and a servant goes to the fahisha, as is mentioned in authentic hadith. So it depends on whatever works for you. Everyone understand this? As far as having a high percentage and low percentage, then that's a different discussion. How much fear, how much love when you're younger, when you get older, etc. Allah knows best.
Initials NH from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please explaining the following hadith. Allah continues to excuse and grant forgiveness to a person until he attains the age of 60 years.
Allah will excuse and grant forgiveness or pardon to someone until they reach the age of 60. Yani, we have a general understanding and a specific understanding. The general understanding is that Allah Azza wa Jalla loves to pardon, as the Prophet has explained to us. Allah loves to make an excuse for His servants. Allah Azza wa Jalla is kind, and His mercy is more than His wrath. And Allah's wrath is quite severe and quite terrible. Yet and still His mercy is greater than that. Think about that now. How many nations were wiped out because of Allah's wrath? But Allah's mercy is what? Greater than that. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He loves to make an excuse. The Prophet he tells us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَيُمْهِلِ الظَّالِمِ حتى إذا أخذه لم يفلته ثم قرأ النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام كذلك أخذ ربك إذا أخذ القرى وهي ظالمة إن أخذه أليم شديد. Allah, the Prophet he says that Allah will grant respite to the wrongdoer, the zalim, so much so that when He seizes him, finally He won't let him go. And then He recited the verse from Surah Hud regarding Allah Azza wa Jal punishing the towns and the villages when they are wrong and when they are oppressive. So Allah loves to make excuses, whether it's 60 years or less than 60 years. Everyone understand this? Allah loves to give people respite. Rather, Iblis, waliyadu billah, anzirni. He says, oh Allah, give me respite. Ila yawmi yub'athun, until the day in which they are resurrected. Allah gave the request and honored the request of Al-La'im, Al-mal'un, the cursed, wretched one. So what about the what? The believer. So whether it's 60 years or less than 60 years. However, this hadith means, as the ulama of Islam say, is that when you reach that age in your life, you've experienced so much, you've seen so much, maturity, physical, spiritual, etc. There's no excuse for you to just be a spiritual loser at that point in your life. 60? Allah didn't give you enough years to get your act together. You experience youth, the thrill of youth, the rage of youth. 60 years old, you're closer to the grave. You haven't learned your lesson yet. You haven't become wise yet. It's no excuse, and that's a great period for a person to live. To live 60 years on earth is a long time, in light of how many people would die through war, through disease, through sickness, and things like this. Allah knows best.
Mrs. B.O. from United Kingdom, London. What is your view on the book Tahdid Bulugh al-Maram, the edition of Amulatto? Would you advise memorizing that or Bulugh and that?
Questions come from London. What is your view on the book Tahdid Bulugh al-Maram, along with the additions or the supplements from Umdat al-Ahkam? Would you advise to memorize that book or memorize Bulugh al-Maram, the Umdat al-Ahkam separately, etc.? There was a brother in Al-Madinah, a good friend. We were studying together in the dojo there. He purchased the book and he was working on the book. He showed me the book, and it's a very good book. If my memory serves me correctly, maybe I purchased the book there. I'm not sure. I don't think so. At the end of the day, I saw the book. It's a very beneficial book. If you have the hybrid studying style and you want to take the best of both worlds and that's what you want to memorize, طيب, لا بأس. But stick to that. Stick to that. As far as if you want to stick with the classical, traditional way of studying the books separately, taking their pros and cons, the good and bad with them, then perhaps that's best. Me personally, does a person have to study Umdat al-Ahkam? Is that mandatory? Or should a person just begin with Bulugh al-Maram? There's different views. It depends on the student of knowledge. It depends on who your teacher is. And it depends on how far you plan on going in the study of hadith. Obviously, Bulugh al-Maram has its advantages. And from the greatest of its advantages is, number one, is that Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala was Shafi'i. And Umdat al-Ahkam, Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi was Hanbali. And some of the ulama, they say that the Hanbali madhab is nothing more than an extension of the Shafi'i madhab. I'm not saying this, but many people, they say this. That it's nothing more than a child of the Shafi'i madhab. A few additions, a few augmentations, but in actuality, it's just a smaller form of the Shafi'i madhab. And they say that the Shafi'i madhab is older, and sometimes in how it's organized and arranged, more thorough. Some of them, they say this. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he organized his book as a Shafi'i. And obviously Ibn Hajar, he came after the ulama who wrote bigger books, Al-Imam, and so on and so forth. The different books, of Ahadith al-Ahkam, right? So they say that Ibn Hajar's tartib is better than that of Umdat al-Ahkam. So that's one pro. Pro number two is that Ibn Hajar's books are more popular, they're more famous. How many explanations are there for Bulugh al-Maram? You can count. How many explanations are there for Umdat al-Ahkam? A few here and there. All right? Thirdly is that Bulugh al-Maram, since it's not just based off of Bukhari and Muslim, it covers all the aspects of fiqh in the proper step-by-step order, like we mentioned last night, the catalog. Umdat al-Ahkam, because it's only based off the hadith from Bukhari and Muslim initially, there's certain chapters and issues in the fiqh catalog which cannot be found in Bukhari and Muslim. So you're going to lose certain things. And as a beginner studying hadith and studying fiqh and fiqh al-hadith, you need that proper fiqh catalog order. In my humble opinion, that's better than jumping here and there. Hadith in Bukhari about wudu, then the next hadith is about tayammum, and the next hadith is not 100% there because there's no hadith from Sunan Abi Dawud. There's no hadith from Jami' Tirmidhi. So sometimes Bulugh al-Maram, even though it's bigger, it's easier. Sometimes it's what? Sometimes it's easier, all right? So a person doesn't necessarily have to start off with Umdat al-Ahkam. A person doesn't necessarily have to do both. You can just do Bulugh al-Maram if you wanted to. And obviously the advantage of Umdat al-Ahkam is that it's shorter. It's smaller, 442 hadiths approximately. That's nothing compared to 1,400 hadiths, 1,500 hadiths in Bulugh al-Maram. It's easier. And the beginner always needs that which is smaller, simpler, and easier. This is one of the guiding principles of a beginning student of knowledge. Is to take that which is small and simple. Take that which is small and simple. As Allah Azza wa Jalla told the people in Surah Al Imran, وَلَكِنْ كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تُعَلِّمُونَ الْكِتَابَ وَبِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْرُسُونَ. Allah says, be Rabbaniyin. And we know the ulama of Islam, they differ on what's meant by Rabbani. And some of them say, as is narrated from Abdullah bin Abbas, الَّذِي يُعَلِّمُ النَّاسَ كِبَارَ الْعِلْمِ قَبْلَ صِغَارِهِ, is the one who teaches the people the small knowledge before the big knowledge. So a smaller book is sometimes better than a bigger book, but not all of the time. Sometimes a smaller book is more difficult than a bigger book is. And this is well known. Who is more skilled and who has more delicate hands? A person who fixes a watch or a car engine? Of course, it's the what? It's the watchmaker. The parts are 10 times, 20 times what? Smaller and more sensitive and delicate. If you make a mistake, you lose your grip, you sweat, you lose a small, tiny screw, and what? That's not the same as a truck engine. Even though the truck engine is huge compared to this, huh? See how delicate that is? So sometimes something that which is smaller is more difficult than that which is what? Bigger. Smaller doesn't always mean easier. All right? So it depends on you. It depends on your teacher. It depends on your career. Al-Muhim, if you memorize the book that has both of them, has the additions from al-Ahkam, فَذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ عَلَى خَيْرٌ وَنُورٌ عَلى نُورٍ وَاللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ هُوَ الْمُوَفِّقُ.
Initially, AJ from Cincinnati, Ohio. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. May Allah bless you in your effort. What is the permissibility of a Muslim joining the United States military? Jazakumullah khair.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The question is coming from Cincinnati, Ohio. What is the ruling on a Muslim joining the United States Army? I would humbly say the ruling of a Muslim joining the United States Army is very similar to the ruling on paying taxes. It's very similar to the ruling on taking the citizenship of the United States. It's very similar to voting and a whole big pot or kettle of these issues. When you pay taxes, where do the taxes go? How is your tax money spent? Some of it is spent on the road, on this, on schools, on kada, and some of it is spent where? On the military. Jets and bombs and GPSs that can pinpoint a mosquito in Iraq and drop a cluster bomb on it. The money comes from somewhere. There has to be a food trail. So how many Muslims pay taxes? Okay, voting. They say you can't vote. It's haram to vote. It's shirk, it's taghut, it's this and it's that. But you live in America. Your children are born in America. Your grandchildren are born and raised in America. So we have this big cluster of Muslims and there's no political voice for them. It doesn't add up. We're not leaving and going to no other country. Where are the people making hijrah to in 2018? You go to Egypt, you go to Yemen, you go to Saudi, they laugh at you, they make fun of you. They say, why are you here? What are you doing here? You have a blue passport with an eagle on it holding arrows. Go back to America. Some of them will kick you out the country. They will not make it welcome for you. Go back to America. You have a beard. Your wife wears niqab, all black. He's with ISIS. He's a terrorist. Watch him. Follow him. This is a reality. So you're living in America or the UK. Your children are born and raised in this country. What is going to be for the Muslims in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years if the Muslims don't vote? If the Muslims have no type of involvement in politics, what is going to be for the communities of the Muslims? I'm not saying it's permissible or haram to vote. I'm just saying think about the reality. And the same applies to going into the army. What are you doing in the army? Are you fighting? Are you in the reserves? Are you going overseas to kill people? Or are you just getting an education and you're serving the country for 2 years and you're leaving? It depends. But if we say it's haram to join the army, Muslims can't go into the army because they may kill Muslims, then that leads us to other issues overseas. Where are the army bases overseas? Where does the plane refuel? Where does the ship dock? Where is the aircraft carrier going? And what bay and what gulf? This is not no hidden secret conspiracy knowledge. This is known facts. And there's an amazing thing about the United States military is that when you go overseas or when you go on the internet, you'll be shocked at the amount of transparency there is. They'll tell you where the bases are, how much they have. You'll be shocked like no other country. And it's a well-known and established fact. In the lands of the Muslims, this is the American base. This is the American such and such. This is where this destruction or this tool of destruction is located. They'll tell you that. In the lands of the Muslims. Who are they killing? Who are they bombing? Who are they blowing to smithereens? So, I wouldn't advise with it. I wouldn't advise with it. I wouldn't advise you to go into the military. But I can't say that it's haram, especially due to the fact that there are Muslims in the military. Okay, so I mean, yani Allahul Musta'an, living in the Western countries, the secular lifestyle, what can you do? Allahul Musta'an. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And Allah knows best.
Initials KA from Manchester, UK. I ask Allah to preserve you, Sheikh. Can you give us some advice on how to research Masail?
Give you advice on how to research Masail. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Advice on how to research Masail. Um, and first and foremost is having strong Arabic. Having strong Arabic. Secondly is to know the ugliness of taqleed. To know the stench of taqleed. Not meaning that taqleed is absolutely haram all the time. Sometimes you may have to, but just to know that taqleed is not a good thing. It's not a praiseworthy thing. All right? Is it a necessity? Is it for some people? Maybe. But it isn't a good thing. And we live in a time in which the people who say that they're Salafi and they follow the Salaf, unfortunately, are the flag bearers of taqleed. They make taqleed, they force it upon others, and they disrespect and talk about people who refuse their taqleed. And they say they're following the Salaf al-Salih. And you don't understand the danger of this. Because they're changing something and they're turning into another piece of matter. They're trying to make something which is madhmoom. It's dispraised, it's condemned. And they're trying to make it to be mamduh, praised, rather obligatory. It's permissible to make taqleed in this situation. These people, maybe. But now, how does khamar become like spring water? How does the flesh of khinzir become like that of lamb? Even if it's permissible to eat pork at the time of necessity, it's still what? Still pork. It's still khamar. And it remains khamar. The moment there's no necessity, it goes back to its asl, which is al-khabith. It's filthy and it's foul. So we live in a time in which, unfortunately, the people, they make taqleed the foundation of their deen and force it upon others. You have to take Sheikh Fulan's statement. Absolutely. And if you don't understand what the Sheikh said, then pray at nighttime. And Allah will bless you with it. Wallahi, I'm not making this up. This is a statement that was made. If you disagree with Sheikh Fulan and you said it is ludicrous what he said, they say, Sallu bil-layl, pray at night. And Allah will give you coolness of the chest and to accept the ruling. La ilaha illallah. And they say, we're following Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Hadith. This is the time in which we live. So even if it is permissible to make taqleed from time to time, the taqleed does not leave the station of what? Of dispraise and of blame. Everyone understand this? Taqleed is an ugly thing, Islamically and intellectually. To follow someone, to be a follower, to be a tag-along, is that a good thing or a bad thing in the world? Nothing to do with religion, good or bad. Your son, what you want your son to be? A thinker or a follower? Of course. The first thing they tell you in school, why are you talking? Why are you putting crayons on the radiator? Maybe too old for some of us in the modern age. You know about that, Ahmed? You put crayons on the radiator, right? Why are you doing these things, making paper planes in class? Say, because what? I saw him do it. The rest of the kids do it. And your mother or your teacher, they say, if they jump off a bridge, what? As a young child in non-Muslim school, they teach you the dispraise of what? Taqleed. Think for yourself and don't be a follower because it may cost you your life if they commit suicide. That's the concept of intellect. Allah gave the human the ability to think, and you choose to be stupid and dumb like an animal. It does not make sense. Even though sometimes in life you will have to follow and not think. But it doesn't change the asl. That is bad not to think and to be a follower. So one of the greatest ways of researching Masail is to learn the necessity of researching Masail. Why research Masail? Why go through this book, Fath al-Bari and Muhalla and Fulan and this one and that one? Why make your own ijtihad? Because taqleed is ugly and you should never ever be pleased with it for yourself. Even if you make limited ijtihad, even if you're just a beginner, you should be striving to take the shackles of taqleed off of you and not striving to keep them on you. Everyone understand this? As the great teacher said, he says, a teacher is never someone who guides and someone who tells the student what the teacher is nothing more than a person to put you on the track. That's it. This is how to go. This is how to think. This is where you research it. Assalamu alaikum. Next student. Everyone understand this? So this is one of the ways of researching Masail is you have to know why to research Masail. Why do you need to research? Because taqleed is a what? It's a bad thing. And it's only a means of necessity. Huh? And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Inshallah, coming classes, we try to introduce more books, more research techniques. The Lulu Marjan class should show you a great deal how the ulama differ, how to understand the hadith, the importance of Arabic, the importance of usul al-fiqh, the importance of ilm al-hadith. All of those things are discussed in detail in the Lulu Marjan classes. Inshallah, hopefully, maybe we can do a workshop on this in the near future. Maybe a workshop in the UK, how to research Masail. Even though that's a lifetime project. And Allah knows best.
This is OS from Chills, Illinois. Assalamu alaikum. What should one do if they don't have an personal Arabic teacher and they are struggling with pronouncing and reciting the mandatory things during the prayer?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The question comes from Illinois with regards to one who doesn't have an Arabic teacher and they're struggling to recite and to read, etc. Well, first and foremost is you have to ask Allah to make things easy for you and to make things manageable for you. Secondly is on the internet, okay, media, you can find classes, tutorials, you can find apps, you can find things that can cover some of the slack of not having a personal teacher. And maybe you may have to make hijrah to another city or another town, all right, in which there is an established community or where there is a student of knowledge or a scholar. Or maybe you take a weekend trip. Once a month, you go out and you sit and you study for 3 hours and you go back. Where there's a will, there's a way. Man jadda wajad. Where there's a will, there's a way, inshallah ta'ala. So that's my advice to you, is take the necessary sacrifice to get the obligatory things that you need in your deen regarding pronouncing the Quran, calling the adhan, etc. If you want to be a student of knowledge and learn Arabic and learn how to read the Quran in its original language and memorize it, then you must sacrifice. What are you willing to give? Everyone understand this? You can't give 30 minutes a day online. You can't pay $20 a class. People, they don't want what? They say we're not paying. No, we don't want no honorarium. We're not paying him. No, he does it for the face of Allah. But they do what? They want their hands are out, their bags are open from beginning to the end. That's not real. That's not what? That's not real. If you're not willing to give anything, if you're not willing to give anything for knowledge, make any sacrifice. They say learn Arabic on your own couch or your sofa. Learn Arabic 5 minutes a day. That's not real. You have to tell the people you have to sacrifice. You want this? You have to get a little bit. Give a little, to get a little, as they say. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. This will be our last question now, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. This is MH from Manchester, UK. What is the ruling for a man praying in jeans/trousers? I was told that jeans do not properly cover the aura and one should not pray in them.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question comes from Manchester. The ruling of a man praying in jeans/trousers. First and foremost is the best thing to do, which is mentioned by the people of knowledge, is to cover yourself, even if the pants are covering you sufficiently. The pants aren't tight, they're not hugging, they're not fitting, but the ulama have explained of the past, it's best to wear an izar. It's best to wear a thob or qamis over your pants. That's the best thing to do. Is it haram to pray in pants? Not necessarily. Is it permissible as long as they're not tight? That's not the discussion, but it's always best to cover up. So, in the masjid, they have izars or thobs on the hook. Or you have an izar with you. Or a fold up thing, something in your pocket, in your book bag at school. If you can't wear thob or you don't wear thob. Wearing a thob is not obligatory. No one with any sense says that you have to wear a thob. It's wajib, fard to wear a thob. It's not obligatory. You can wear pants. Okay? Everyone understand this? I don't wear them, but it's permissible. It's permissible to wear pants outside without a thob. What's important is that's the best thing to do. As far as if you don't have an izar and you don't have a thob, as long as the pants are loose, as long as your shirt covers what it's supposed to cover, and no Muslim man in his right mind is to wear tight clothes outside. You have on long johns, pajamas, underpants, that's one thing to keep you warm in the winter. Now, the modern day long johns that are tight, not like the old ones. The old ones were what? A little loose. But they have the new, underarm and all of that stuff. That's one thing. Or if a man wanted to wear tight stuff for his zoj, that's what? That's one thing. That's one thing. But we're not talking about a grown man, going outside wearing snug or tight clothes. That's just ill-advised. That's what? That's ill-advised, period. So there should never be a time in which you can't pray. There should never be a time in which you can't do the necessary lifeblood of your existence, which is salah. That's the lifeblood of Islam, is prayer. So you're in a time or a place or wearing something in which you cannot pray. Something is seriously wrong with what you're wearing. No matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, I can pray immediately. Oh, wait, I got to change. I got to go here. I got to do this. Something is wrong. And this is what the ulama of Islam say about the harms of not wearing hijab. Is that not wearing hijab leads to people not praying. Because what's the chances of the sister putting on a khimar, taking off the lipstick, the makeup, the high heel shoes, the tight clothes, and putting on a long, loose dress and praying and taking it back off at school or at work? What's the chances of that? Slim to none. And the same applies to brothers who are bodybuilders, muscle guys who wear really tight, snug shirts, really tight pants, tight, skinny jeans. What is going on? I need for a Muslim to dress like that. I'm confused. Wallahi, I don't understand. Tight shirt or what? Tight pants. So the pants or the shirt should never be that tight in which you cannot fulfill the purpose of your existence. And that is ibadah. And the greatest physical act of ibadah is what? It's prayer. Let alone what happens if you get into a fight. Or you got to run. What if you have to lift up your leg or jump over a gate or something? I just don't understand the concept, the aqeedah of skinny pants and the tight shirts. I just don't understand it. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Wa sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.